panel, the time will sorry. And you have up to 2 minutes to address the panel, and the time will commence when you start speaking.
I have a slide that I would like to be on there before I start, please. Yes, that one, thank you. Yeah, that's a photo of the Stafferton Way showing the luminous car park. Good evening. Yes, the council owns the land on Vickers Way, but the location is not suitable for a huge car park. I own the land adjacent to Vickers Way. Can I also build a 5-story car park there? You would all laugh and say the location is not right. Councillor Wilson, you know the problems with the antisocial behaviour at the Stafferton Way car park. Therefore, I don't believe you made a mistake. I think you voted right. Councillor Love, in the last meeting you spoke that you were happy with the measures taken against antisocial behaviour and the lighting. Are you personally guaranteeing that the residents will not suffer from any noise or antisocial behaviour in the next 5, 10, 20 years? Do you guarantee that the council will always have the funds to pay for security repairs? If you take responsibility and you accept that, and that I would be personally knocking on your door for help, asking you for help in the middle of the night, each time antisocial behaviour incidents occur, then I'm happy too. Please comment. Councillor Smith, yes, we agree that another car park is required, but it should not be adjacent to hundreds of residences, especially new builds. Finding a more suitable land for the next car park or increasing the new Nicholson Centre car park is what the council is paid to do. Why don't you reject this application and please ask them to do their job? Listening and representing your residents' concerns is what you have been elected to do. As residents, we have not been treated fairly, kindly, or democratically. Our concerns about road and pedestrian safety, pollution, antisocial behaviour, light pollution, the huge deviation from the local area plan have not been taken seriously. The application has been refused on the 17th December, and whatever happened after that is very suspicious. Please remind me, are we still living in a democratic country?
I'm afraid that's time, because the buzzer went.
Okay, just the last sentence. Whatever is going on inside the council appears not to be right. Thank you.
So if I can call upon Stefan Koenig and Alexander Koenig to take a seat. Unfortunately, we can't do the 30 seconds, but we'll time it when the first one speaks, and the time will be 1 minute, and then it will be up to you and your brother to share that time. Okay.
Excuse me, Chairman. Sorry, I have to ask. Is the parents happy for me to film them? Yes, thank you.
Good evening. During Christmas, I visited Oxford with my family and parked on one of the 5 park and ride car parks. There were no houses near the car park. It was easy, and the roads in the town were not congested. Maidenhead planning can be as forward-thinking as Oxford's. This is planning for the future. For the next 30, 40 years, it needs to be right.
Every litre of petrol creates about 9,000 grams of CO2. The Vickers car park will drive 515 cars twice a day right next to our houses. All the CO2 will be going straight into our lungs. Please don't do this to your residents, especially grandchildren like me. Please find another location. Thank you.
If I can call upon Derek Philip Chu to come forward. And you have up to 2 minutes to address the panel, and that time will commence when you start speaking.
Good evening. I'm extremely frustrated that the Vickers Way application is back in front of this panel for a fourth time. The objections that I and many other residents have are well known, and these have been outlined in many letters of objection. For example, the fact that the car parking should be located to the north of Staffordton Way according to local planning policies, the continued antisocial behaviour in Staffordton Way car park, and the distinct possibility that this will also affect Vickers Way. The car park management plan for Vickers does not allay these fears in residents. The large amount of traffic generated by this application onto a road infrastructure that is barely able to cope with the existing level of traffic, and the impact this development will have on residents due to its extreme proximity to their flats and homes. The panel has heard many of these points before, and I hope that the panel will maintain an open mind when considering the application yet again. In addition, this application has entered a new phase following on from the December panel meeting, one that can only be described as farcical. The lengths that the council as applicant will go to force this application under the guise of regeneration is incredible. Would it not be better for the council to withdraw this application and then sit down with residents and other interested parties in order to reach a mutually agreeable solution? That would be the fair and equitable thing to do in this instance. As it stands, if the Vickers Way application is approved, thus ignoring the current development plan and the proposed borough local plan, the planning authority will be setting a dangerous precedent for future planning applications. Although they are guidelines, what good are local planning policies if the council is simply going to ignore them when it chooses? I relocated to Maidenhead almost a year ago, excited by the prospect of living in a town that has ambitious plans. However, these plans need to include local residents, not be imposed on them. It is only by working together that we will achieve Maidenhead's regeneration goals, and the council would do well to remember that. Thank you.
If I could call upon Sarah Story to come forward. Is Sarah?
Yeah.
I've got you listed down as speaking for 1 minute.
Yeah, I will do my very best. I have time myself, but that's not included in my speaking time. Okay. I am apolitical, new to Maidenhead and still acclimatising, yet so far this has not been a pleasant experience. I'm now facing the prospect of an obtrusive car park on my doorstep. A council that defines a car park as employment land. Is the monitoring officer satisfied that this is compatible with section 6.1 of the Human Rights Act, the duty of all public authorities to act compatibly with the Human Rights Act in their entire decision making? Article 6 guarantees that planning hearings, like any other, are public and fair. It is not fair to provide last-minute documents. It is not fair to hold one public open event. It is not fair to write temporary car park on documents. It is not fair to force me, other women and children to walk past the car park at night. We will have no alternative. The proposed conditions aimed at addressing this car park are contradictory. Turn the lights off, I'm walking past the car park in the dark. Turn them on, artificial lighting. There are so many conditions now placed on this car park. Is it really going to be utilised? I heard the beep, but I would just like to say, I work for the NHS, I'm a publicly paid employee. If I make a mistake, patients' lives are at risk. I deal with heart attacks and cardiac arrests every day. Well, I'm sorry, I can't bring them back. It affects people's lives. You are affecting people's lives. Please vote with your conscience, and I'll leave it at that.
If I can call upon Mathilda Rossignol to come forward. Sorry, I do apologise. You have up to 2 minutes to present, and the time will commence when you also start speaking.
Good evening.
Before I start, I wanted to say that I fully support my fellow residents in their objection. There are so many things wrong about this application, and yet, after 4 council meetings, we still managed to find new things to bring to your attention. This is not right. Tonight, I want you to focus on 2 points from my email on the 15th of January, which has been missed in the update and has been partially answered tonight. First, transport assessment. The transport assessment does not reflect the future transport flow in the area when the 271 homes from Loftings will be completed. At the time of the study, on the 24th of January, there was only 29 blocks that could have, 29 flats that could have possibly been occupied, because at this time, they only released 1 block. And this 1 block, the ground floor, there is no floor, and the top flat was not occupied, and a lot of them were not occupied. It cannot be 90 flats. Nowhere in the report are accounted for any future developments in increased traffic, and this also explains why we only see an increase of only 5 cars on the 232 traffic update on the forecast, and I sent the picture. I'm happy to show it to you. The document says 2018, 50 cars going on Vickers Way, 2032, 7 more only at the time study. This is not right. And when I looked at RBWMHM2, which has been referred to me as the document that is used as a base, it is not a forecasting study. It's a study from 2016 that gives a very solid picture of the traffic in 2016 to be used to then do update. And then my second point is on the car park and the split between long-term, short-term and mid-term. And Jennifer Jackson clearly stated or implied, and it was clear from the report, is that we don't need no more car parking spaces, more car park. What we need is a better split, because a lot of long-term car parks for business are not being used. And a lot are
Excuse me, the time has gone. I did allow you a little bit of leeway, but the time has actually... Okay, I've got Peter Lerner, who you've actually been registered to speak for 2 minutes, and the time will commence equally when you start speaking.
Thank you, good evening. This saga is not a good advertisement for town planning in the 21st century, is it? With on the one hand so many people claiming to have acted perfectly properly, and on the other hand so many people who are rapidly losing confidence in this council. This is the 4th attempt to get this through your panel, and the opposition to this ill-conceived application shows no sign of abating. The Prime Minister, Theresa May, got it absolutely right when she wrote to the Council this weekend on the subject of this very planning application to ask if you would please show the local residents that you are listening. So may I very kindly ask you to listen while I remind you of some of the material considerations. There is no Council policy in support of this application. The site is not allocated for car parking in either the adopted local plan or the submitted borough local plan. There is no current car parking strategy, although the Council told the BLP inspector on the 10th of December 2018 that one was in preparation as a supplementary planning document. It's not referred to in the reports on this application. This application came as a shock and surprise to local residents, coming as it did without any prior consultation. Those who have recently moved into new homes, seduced by the romance of a Maidenhead regeneration, have come to a rude awakening when faced with a 5-storey car park in close proximity, with its inevitable issues of air pollution, light pollution, antisocial behaviour, all of which have been detailed to you on a monthly basis since October. This is the wrong location for a 5-storey car park. If you're not willing to refuse planning permission, which my clients believed you had been brave enough to do on the 17th of December, I ask you to defer consideration in order to request the applicant to undertake a full and meaningful consultation with local residents on alternative uses for this land, in the context of the Council's current work on a car parking strategy, of which the applicant may, of course, have been unaware. Thank you.
Call upon Andrew Hill now to take a seat, and equally you have up to 2 minutes to address the panel.
Good evening. I am quite horrified by the events of the last few weeks. When you were reading out the vote from item agenda 4, you referred to a decision of December the 17th several times, and obviously the legal issue, as Councillor Hunt raised, was that it was the distinction between a resolution of this room and the notice of decision given later. So even the previous entry, I could not follow the process that you were following. I'm worried about whether you've done your full section 149 considerations. Have you fully anticipated the access of disabled people or people with disabilities across the town with this one new zebra crossing? Does that solve the problem? Have you done those tests? Are there other protected characteristics under section 149? You've heard from people who are concerned about whether it disproportionately affects gender, for example. So you need to be considering those sorts of matters, and I can't see the evidence for that. Councillor Hunt raised the issues in the previous item of the